Yes. Yeah.
Great. So our session today is titled Meet Them Where They Are. And it's a study where we looked at students' attitudes towards writing with generative AI. And then at the end of our preliminary data presentation today, we're going to talk about a few use case possibilities and provide you all with some resources for being able to think about where first year writing students are, university students in tech com or any writing course are, and also be able to kind of meet them on your terms working with generative AI. Because everybody's in a different place with generative AI. I'm an AI evangelist. If you go to my LinkedIn page, you'll see that. I'm balanced quite nicely by colleagues who are much more reasoned and critical than I am. And so any attitude and all attitudes are welcome. So we'll go ahead and get started. Wanted
Okay.
to give you all a brief needs snapshot. So 2023 to 2024, if you all remember, OpenAI dropped the public version of ChatGPT in November of 2022. That seems like forever ago, but it really wasn't. So in terms of preparing students and thinking about what generative AI means in a professional sense, we're still in the infancy. But the Stephen Institute of Technology a couple of months ago put out a great study, and what they found was that 49% of people, just general folks in a working environment, trust institutions like higher ed to use AI responsibly and train students for ethical AI use, even if the tools aren't so trustworthy. The flip side of that is that in that same study, 22% of faculty felt that way. Right. So it's almost flipped. And then UCLA, Arizona State, and Cornell in 2023 did a study of 600 professionals across disciplines and across workplaces. And you see the numbers there. How many people had used generative AI as of middle of 2023? So we're talking about a year ago. Almost half for generating ideas or researching a topic, over a third for drafting messages, 26% for drafting reports, little more than a little less than a quarter for editing text. And check out that 67% number. Executives and managers believe that generative AI can help them communicate more effectively. So this is where we're sitting as of last year and then right now. So what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about how the student needs can match up with what we're teaching in writing classes to help our students thrive and lead in AI-infused workplaces. So I'll give you a little bit of context and demographics for Kennesaw State. Kennesaw State University is the third largest university in the state of Georgia. We are a public R2, but what that means is that while we are a doctoral granting institution, we also have a comprehensive mission. So for us, that means 38% of our students are first generation. That's 45,000 undergrad and grads, right? And 51% of our students self-identify as members of an underrepresented group. So oftentimes we think that that R2 label is a little bit of a misrepresentation of the actual students we serve. We really do think that the case studies we're running at KSU, because of the type of public university we are scalable, usable, and reliable for learning contexts that are outside of our specific context to similar ones around the country and indeed around the globe. So we had two different surveys. We ran a survey in the spring of 2024, which was the second part of a first year writing survey that Laura mentioned I started in fall of 2023, in August of 2023. So we did in spring of 2024, we reran the survey for students who had not taken it yet and asked for them to participate. So we had 2,140 students just in English 1101, which is our first sequence first year writing class. And in spring of 2024, we had 597 students taking TCOM 2010. Laura, would you explain to folks really quickly the differences between the TCOM 2010 and English? You'll do it
Sure.
better than I do.
You think so? Okay. So TCOM 2010 is called Introduction to Technical Writing, and it is a class taken primarily by our STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math students. It introduces students to the genres of communicating in the technical science workplace. It's a big shift from English 1101 because they're no longer writing for the teacher. They're starting to write for professional audiences, and they're beginning to articulate complex ideas for lay audiences. That's the short. That's the short version.
Love it. So for spring 2024 in our study, we had 268 total students who looked at the study. 167 completed it. The other students who answered had already completed the study in the fall. And for TCOM 2010, we had 51 students and then 47 who actually completed the survey. And our method of collection was very interesting. I'm going to have to plug in my computer, pardon me. We are very interested in protecting our faculty in terms of approaching generative artificial intelligence. So our method was more of a snowball method. We really did just request faculty colleagues who were teaching in these courses to allow students time to take the 7 to 10 minute survey in class or for homework. We encouraged them to give extra credit if they felt like they wanted to, but quite frankly, at least I can speak for the Department of English. In the Department of English, many of our faculty have neutral or some have negative impressions of generative AI and just weren't interested in participating, which is totally fine and totally great. We're running these studies again in the fall, and we certainly hope to have more participation in those studies given the number of students we have.
And in TechCom, we didn't have that kind of resistance. I don't know what else to call it. We just kicked it out to all the TCOM instructors, and I run about 25 sections of TCOM. So they all put it out there without any hesitation. So here we are.
That's really I think that's very interesting. The differences between our colleagues who are teaching in 1101 and 1102 for English versus TCOM, and that is really, and we'll talk about that in a little bit too. This idea of different audiences and different types of writing, and how the students really did complete the survey and had different ideas.
Yeah.
So for first year writing, I will give an indication of the writing usage patterns. I did a little analysis of this. So the context for AI use, and this is in English 1101. So about 37% of them admit that they have used AI. I hate that word admit, say that they used AI for college assignments. About 42% said they use it for social media or personal, and 21%-ish said that they use it for work writing. And of those students, if you take a look at that AI tools used part of the slide, overwhelmingly, ChatGPT is the chosen generative AI large language model that our students who took part in the study were using. Also for, and Laura will take us through this for TCOM 2010. For English 1101, we also ran a positive textual and sentiment analysis, and I wanted to give you all an idea of the qualitative questions, the answers and responses that our students gave to us. And these are, again, first-year students in their second semester of university. So these three buckets or silos of information come directly from the words that students used when they were answering, is AI cheating? And why did you answer the way you did? So why did you answer the way you did? So positive textual analysis. Many of our students believe that it's great for generating ideas, brainstorming. That shouldn't be any surprise to us, helping them to get started, right? They also appreciate AI's ability to provide different perspectives and suggestions. So kind of that peer review. So brainstorming, peer review. They also found it useful for editing and proofreading. The big thing they found that they liked to use it for was for research assistance. This was the biggest one. Several responses specifically highlighted the utility of generative AI in gathering preliminary research or understanding basic concepts. And students actually talked about being able to, in ChatGPT, upload their information or attach their information in the chat and be able to have GPT help them understand a concept. So that's really key as we start thinking about AI literacy, as we start thinking about students and how they have these nuanced developing understandings of generative AI use, not just for academic spaces of writing, but as they move into their majors and their careers. And this survey really did show that they had this really great nuanced understanding of how and when to use it.
So Jeanne, I'm going to send you back one slide because we have kind of an in-context question. Yeah. So Leticia is asking, can you clarify what is positive textual and sentiment analysis? Quick definition.
Absolutely. So what we did is we used 3 different computer programs to analyze the data. So we took each question separately, and this was question 5, which was a qualitative version of a question before it, which was, do you think AI is cheating? Yes, no, maybe. Right. And we'll talk about the quantitative in just a little bit. But the positive textual and sentiment analysis was that the computer programs were able to tell us which parts of those students' answers and which part of their words were positive and which ones were negative. And so then we were able to, we used GPT, we used Claude, we used Qualtrics as our 3 different textual sentiment analyses programs. We were able to upload our information anonymized and have those programs tell us what exactly the students were they using positive words or negative words? Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah, sure.
And then Greg Nelson posted a link to some interesting information we should follow up with later. Okay, next slide, off you go.
Thank you. So the negative textual and sentiment analysis. So these are the words that students responded to in the survey that indicated they were concerned or they had a negative impression of AI in regards to cheating, right? So we're talking specifically about AI in regards to, is it cheating or is it not cheating or is it sometimes cheating? So our students considered use of generative AI cheating when it replaced personal effort. And that was a recurring theme in the text that came up again and again and again. Using generative AI to write essays or complete assignments is considered cheating. This is what our students are saying, right? So I think that kind of is interesting because we've done a lot of work looking at plagiarism and whether or not to use plagiarism detectors. I know Vanderbilt University, I have a colleague up there, they have disabled Turnitin and AI detection on their plagiarism checkers because of the problematic nature of false positives, particularly with students who are international students or who do not speak English as a first or second language. So this is interesting because the narrative, right, is our students are using it to cheat. At least that's been the narrative that we've heard down at Kennesaw. So this kind of busted that. That's why we were so excited about some of this qualitative data. The qualitative data really busted that myth, right? Students recognized when it was cheating. If I'm using this, right, to write an essay, then it's cheating. And they're using those words specifically. Respondents also emphasized that submitting work generated by AI as one's own really did undermine what they were in college for, no matter what. And they showed an understanding of this idea that just doing a single shot in generative AI to get your essay done and like that and not proofreading it or anything is cheating. It doesn't demonstrate learning on your part. And they were very concerned about learning. They also had concerns about originality and creativity. And this is a gen ed class, right? First year composition. There's a widespread belief among all the respondents that AI impedes the creative process and that relying on AI for academic tasks can lead to a decline in students' own creative and critical thinking skills. So that takes us back to, we can use it for brainstorming, but there's a fine line between using it for brainstorming and just having it create something for you. So students are really demonstrating deep, often conflicting understandings about generative AI use in their writing. Students also had ethical and moral concerns. Many of the respondents saw the use of generative AI as a moral issue. They actually used the word plagiarism when we did not use the word plagiarism at all in the survey. So these students were using plagiarism as a word on their own. They also argued that if you're using, depending on AI too much, promotes laziness and dishonesty. There were concerns about it bypassing learning again, not academic growth. And there were concerns that there were several concerns that students didn't think it was fair if someone was using generative AI and kind of cheating, using it to cheat, that student was able to get a better grade when the student who did the work did not. Right. So it's not all that everything was very conflicted, and it was both positive and both negative.
Okay, so you get to hear from me now. So my students are different. I'm in a different department. We bifurcated Tech Com from English a long time ago. And my students are those who have to take Introduction to Technical Writing as part of their degree requirement. So STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math. And mostly this course is required by degrees who have accrediting bodies that require the class, or some degrees just require it. They know that a lot of their STEM students don't necessarily become good workplace communicators, and they want to make sure that they can articulate complex ideas to a variety of non-expert audiences. So my typical STEM students in TCOM 2010 are computer sci, construction management, software engineering, industrial and systems engineering and tech, and information technology. Is it kind of like the Big Bang Theory undergraduate edition? Yes. Okay, next slide, Jeanne.
Thank you.
So positive sentiments. They like the idea, just as the first year students do for AI as an idea generation. They like the whole idea of it being able to reword or to break down complex ideas and concepts, which is kind of what they're doing in TechCom. Phrases like learning tool, help get ideas, and assist your writing reflect exactly this sentiment. And inspiration and practice, again, generating ideas, practice, etc., highlight a really positive sentiment with regard to the use of AI. Ironically, none of my faculty are using any AI assignments in TCOM 2010 yet, which is something I plan to put the hammer down in August at the department meeting and say, this is TechCom, people. Let's put one assignment into the mix to see how we do. Next slide, Jeanne. So negative assessments. And again, the unspoken word keeps coming up. Plagiarism. And I read an individual comment that talked about stealing from the computer like it was a human. And I thought, fascinating. I guess that's how my Big Bang audience thinks, the computer as human. But there are, again, plagiarism, cheating, not one's own work. And again, this reflects a lot of what we saw. Loss of personal effort. And I'm thinking, that is fascinating, because in a lot of writing studies, students will come up to you and go, well, Dr. Palmer, Dr. Palmer, Dr. Palmer. I'm like Beetlejuice, say it 3 times and I emerge. And what they're trying to tell me is, I put so much effort into this, you have to give me a good grade. But a lot of times we're saying process doesn't matter, only product. So very contradictory to what they think about process versus product, but they see personal effort as being very important, and that we must have a process. So this loss of personal effort is very significant to them as they understand what AI is taking out of the writing equation. And again, I found that really fascinating. I thought, isn't the idea to do less? Aren't we all Homer Simpson in some way?
That's what I use it for.
Yeah, right. I mean, yeah. So
yeah,
is Gen I use is cheating? Interestingly, my STEM people in the spring 34% of them said yes. I was
Check
like,
out the writing number.
we got the
Only
writing number.
15%.
So,
Only 15% of those first year writers. Oh, yeah, it's definitely cheating.
whereas my STEM people are like 34%. And I'm like, what is going on? Is that one ethics class in the STEM curriculum really paying off? Or how is this being talked about more? I know in computing science, they've had to go back to in-class examinations because there's so much use of chat GPT and other AI to develop code and equations and stuff like that. But I'm very interested to see this shift. So Gen AI use is not cheating. STEM.
Numbers don't blow me away either. The number that's going to blow everybody away is probably our next slide. But
Yeah,
I mean,
probably
third,
the next one. Yeah, yeah, I agree.
yep.
So sometimes, is this like being a little bit pregnant? I'm not sure. STEM 42, writing 48.
Eight. And this is, I think, where that initial sentiment data we showed you all, we want you to kind of be thinking about that, because this is that murky middle, right? This
Yeah,
is where it gets really messy. And this is where I think that educators can make the best impact, because roughly half of our students are like, sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. And they really need guidance from their instructors on, hey, when is it, when isn't? And how do we know that? I mean, this is such a new technology, right? So that's kind of one of our recommendations when we talk about it, is that we've got to be able to educate the educators. We have
yeah.
to know first before we help them, but that's kind of an interesting, sometimes be cheating. So we wanted to be able to do this really, really quickly. So we didn't use all of our data. We have 2.5 hours worth of data that we put into a 30-minute presentation. Here are the preliminary takeaways for you. We understand from both TCOM and first year writing at a university level that students are developing deep, nuanced uses and understandings of generative AI. They're using them in academic spaces and personal spaces. They need guidance on ethical AI use. And here's where faculty have the opportunity to provide key input. And we got together and came up with these top 3 ways that we as educators can help our students with numbers 1, 2, and 3, right? Help scale it, help them understand the human-centered ethics of AI output, and cultivate students' digital literacies to prepare them for those AI-infused workplaces.
Yeah. And so we need to look at enhanced professional development and education. And so thinking about providing continuing ed on the ethical use of AI and its role in academic integrity. And I think those of you who teach especially, and maybe you all do, and I know some of you may be librarians, but the ways we mostly bust them is you start to look at the references as you get to the bottom of a chat GPT generated paper, as it dwindles into the obscure, the arcane, and the ridiculous. And then you look at the references and you're like, oh, I'm an expert in this field and I know that book doesn't exist because I would have read it. So we need to do that, help people understand, maybe start at the bottom of your papers now versus reading from the top down and finding it's not the paper it should be. And updated guidelines. What is acceptable use? So I teach information design when I'm in the classroom. That's a visual class. We spent information design 1 and 2. We spent time generating visuals for technical communicators because no one expects us to be artistes. We need to get something down that's probably a throwaway. And what does this mean for art, AI, and communication? We stumbled a lot, and then we ran into the guidelines of the university. And finally, integration. How do they start to bring this together in their writing practices, and especially in a responsible way, in a way that can translate out into the real world when they go out there? There's a lot of great things you can do with AI, but you have to be a critical thinker.
Exactly. So we had some action points for you all, and we'd love to take the last 6 or 5 minutes or so that we have to talk about some of these. I'll run through them really quickly and then we can talk about them. like Laura was saying, professional development and education, we've got to train the educators, and a couple of hardcore action items that school systems or that universities or libraries could do is enroll educators in courses that provide comprehensive understandings of AI fundamentals and applications. And I understand that there are lots of free ones out there, and I can go watch a YouTube video. And I had a student tell me that the other day, and I was like, yeah, I get that. But if you're on Coursera or Udemy, or you're taking a Google class, or you're taking an IBM Watson course, you know who it is who's teaching that course. I mean, for goodness sake, Andrew Ng teaches a course in Coursera, right? KSU has some courses in Coursera that kind of explains AI for educators who are just getting into AI. We also have courses that are for professional communication and for people who want to use it in everyday lives. My mother and my grandmother and my aunt were the audiences for the one for everyday life, and it's kind of a really cool little thing for them. But that's key, and your systems, your institutions need to invest in you to take any type of paid professional development that comes out of a university or a major organization, right? That's important. Conducting these professional development workshops, focusing on integrating AI tools into pedagogical strategies, also really clear and keen thing to do. Updating our assignments. We've got a QR code for you at the end, because while in TCOM, the instructors have not been using AI as much, in first year composition, they have. So I've been working on that as our writing program director, and I actually developed and trained a free GPT for first year instructors with standards that are aligned to our university's outcomes, which are aligned to national standards and outcomes. And it's a closed GPT, so it doesn't hit the web. It just uses the information that it's got that are all standards aligned. They're also tilted. So these are different things you can do. And finally, this idea of working with students. Once we're trained, once we've updated our assignments to reflect ethical AI, we want to be able to work with students in class. And one of the things we've done at Kennesaw State is we've created student faculty committees that really raise awareness for ethical AI use. And we have included our students in these conversations. Based off of the survey data, we know they wanted to be included, and really they've added this just richness to this tapestry of folks talking about AI. And so that's just another thing that you can do as well. And I think we made it. I can't believe we did a 2-hour presentation in 30 minutes. So
Masters of brevity.
I'm telling you, usually we take much longer than this. So if you'd like to connect with us, we're both on LinkedIn. They are the QR codes for you to connect with us on LinkedIn. I also have a QR code that will take you directly to the assignment creator for writing instructors, which is a closed GPT. So it's not connected to the web, right? It just takes the information that's been put into it, and the information that's been put into it is all copyright free or copyrighted to Kennesaw State. And it's available for anyone to use. And we also have a link to our KSU AI for Educators Coursera course there. And with that, I'll turn things back over to Laura, and we'll just take questions. Thank you again for being with us.
Thank you. So the slides, I believe that session has been recorded, so be able to come back to it. Our presenter, do you have any idea if the slides are posted or just the video? I know there's a video. Anyway, I guess Jeanne, yeah.
We can get it to them. I mean, if folks want to hit one of us up or hit me up, I'll volunteer to do that. If you want to hit me up, I'll be more than happy, and I'll just share our slides for sure. Kevin, I totally get what you're saying, and Laura alluded to this earlier, the idea of different Gen AI policies. Our university has really kind of been at the forefront of our state anyway, in terms of AI policies. And what our digital learning folks, they all got together, faculty and administrators working together, and they put together some language, and we're happy to share that with you if you hit us up on email as well. And it's like a continuum. So they've got one AI policy for a syllabus that is no AI use at all, one that is middle of the road, and one that is, hey, we're going to go all out and use AI for everything. And you can change those up versus where you are on that AI continuum. And so putting that on your syllabus for all your classes, Kevin, might be helpful. And if you want a copy of the ones that our university has, we're certainly willing to provide that to you. But that made it easier for all of us to have program. We don't have one in our program for FYC, but to have university guidelines that gave faculty the freedom to choose how they integrate AI.
Yeah, we're having troubles with the QR, so it might be helpful to send the PowerPoint out.
Perfect. Can do.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions from the group? We really appreciated the chance to talk to you today. Anything else you want to know? Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Everyone. Please don't hesitate to email us or hit us up on LinkedIn with any questions or thoughts or anything else you can think of. We appreciate y'all and thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, and we're going to keep monitoring this data and see how, if, and what ways it changes. So we'll keep you posted. Maybe we'll be back in a couple of years.
Yeah, there's longitudinal studies.
Yes.
The ones that used to be great. Oh, you're right. I mentioned the rhetorical frame. Yes, I can actually put that into our chat, or I can send you a link to that. We didn't have time to talk about it. I'm so sorry, but yeah, if you will shoot me an email, I'll make sure you get a link to that as well. And that is that is a framework we developed that we'd love for you to try out and use. And I've got a really cool blog post that I can send you on how to use it.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Well, I think this concludes our time. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. And we appreciated the opportunity.
Absolutely. Thanks, y'all.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.